So what we'll do, so we'll take this transmission line and we start applying. I just suggest you to, if you have papers, you can write it down, or if you able to listen by seeing it, understand by seeing it, also fine. And make sure that you can follow the steps. So we'll start with the equations now. So here, this is my typically the transmission lines, which is having a generator and load. So generator, as name suggests, it will have VG, some source, and you can just see that it is AC. Okay, so you can ask that why the microwave signals basically, if it is having a frequency, it's supposed to have a AC, correct? So when you have that, for example, 1 gigahertz or 2 gigahertz signal, which is carrying across that transmission line, it's supposed to be a AC. And any current or any power carrying signals will be AC. Okay. So you could have asked me that why we can have the DC, but DC doesn't have the potential to modulation and demodulations. And also it will contribute a lot of line noises, right? So we don't use it for a transmission for no, generally DC signals, correct? That's why in line coding also you have preferred the Manchester coding since it is look like a AC. Fine. So we have a generator VG that is a varying potential, positive and negative. There is a ZZ is there. That is a source impedance. Okay, our generator impedance. This is sending end port and receiving end port, and this is on typical cable. I just kept it for this example. So these are the different types in the transmission lines. How basically it will flow, how the electromagnetic signal will flow. Okay, there are, you can see that the potential is varying. So it is like a sinusoidal, potential is varying, something like that. Okay, so normally the electric field lines we will mark it as perpendicular. Okay, so the magnetic potential normally we mark it as parallel. You can see the dots, no? So these dots will tell me the magnetic potential. Actually, it is coming out from the screen. Okay, it's coming like a 3D. Okay, it's coming off exactly. If you hear the 3D class, probably it may come directly to eyes, basically. Okay, so this is the magnetic potential. So how to start with the equations? So what I will do is I'll use another screen. Probably I'll try to connect it and then start writing it. If you have any difficulty in seeing it, you can tell me. Probably I can do it. Okay, let us move to the other one. So this is actually the small analysis. This may not be necessary for equations, but what happens in higher frequencies? This is small analysis for your review. So here for your how you can relate with the low frequency and high frequency. If the low frequency signal is applied, length is L, and if you, for example, if you send 1 kilohertz and 5 voltage, and at the point of A and A dash at 0 seconds, this is my signal. Okay, if you convert this frequency to the wavelength, we have done that. Okay, after some point of time, the wavelength is very high because 1K is typically a low frequency compared to gigahertz. And when you convert this frequency to the wavelength, it is actually very high. Probably you may have very bigger, no more than like a kilometers. So when it is reaches after the transmission line, there is small delays. It is unnoticeable. Okay, we can we can ignore it. But if the frequencies start increasing, this delay is very noticeable. Okay, so this is called transit time effect. That can be measured by no. Usually this is distance by time. Distance is physical length of the cable divided by time is TR. So that is a velocity, phase velocity. So I will interchange this. So velocity and time. So this is my transit time. Okay. So to neglect transit time effect, what we have to do? So this transit time effect should be very small compared to the signal period. If you take, this is my signal, and this is when I transfer across the cable. It may maybe let us take some realistic value, 100 meters cable. My clock period is, let us take t equals to, or you take f equals to 1 kilohertz. You just put it in terms of time durations. You will get what is the time cycle. You will get in terms of probably more, basically. Okay, so you get a some time period here. Let us take t. Okay, so after 100 meters, if the transit time effect should be negligible, means this TR, the time taken to transfer this signal, should be very small, so that this is unnoticeable. The T is should be very large compared to TR. Okay, so that I won't notice any delay in this, basically. Okay, this is small substitution. If you put, I think I will erase everything. So when you put the substitution is equal to lambda f and TR L by Vp, you'll get lambda by C equals to L by Vp, and you'll get no. So typically, if you assume that speed of light, if you're using the medium is air, so that velocity equals to the speed of light. So this denominator is equal. So numerator is supposed to be equal. So lambda equal to greater than that. So to avoid the transit time effect, so that the wavelength of the signal should be very high compared to the physical length of the cable. Okay, that's what we have also seen in the previous pictures here. I think if you have seen here, the wavelength of the operating signal should be very high compared to the physical length, so that the transit time effect can be avoided in this wireline communications. Okay, so that what the similar results, and so we can neglect the transit time effect, and for that the length of cable should be very small compared to the operating wavelength, or else operating wavelength should be very high compared to the length of the cable. Lambda should be very greater than here. So this another name we say this length. Okay, whenever this wavelength or physical length is very small compared to the operating wavelength, we call as a lumped elements. Okay, so what is a lumped element? Let us go with the inductor. Some designs. This is I'm chip. No, in IC designs, I'm designing inductors with some dimension. Okay, so physical length of the inductor. Let us take realistic value. Let us take some value L2. Okay, so if the this is I'm talking about in terms of layout. I think you are already done in IC designs. No, after schematic, and you will go to the layout and interconnects. How actually you're going to fabricate this inductor in the IC chip. So let us take, this is my physical dimension of the inductor. So this physical dimension of the inductor is nothing but equal to the physical length of the transmission line, some dimension of the device or connector. So that dimension supposed to be very small, okay, compared to the operating wavelength. Okay, what does that mean? So if operating wavelength is very high, means it should be very low frequency. It can be 1 kilohertz or megahertz, maybe 1 megahertz also fine. Okay, so or probably 100 hertz, 10 hertz. So these are very low frequency and very high wavelength. So in this frequency range, what happens? My length is very small compared to this wavelength. So what happens? This transit time effect is not visible in this kind of very smaller devices compared to the operating wavelength. If it is very smaller, even if you send any signal, inductors, no, only induced EMF, that inductor effect will be there, but it doesn't going to affect the signal. There is no transit time effect is going to happen here because the operating wavelength is very high. Okay, so these elements, if I design such a way that the physical length of any devices or connectors, which is very small, that is very important, that is very small, okay, compared to the operating wavelength, then it is called lumped element. So in RF circuits, what I will do, the main thing I will do is first I will see what is the frequency, operating frequency. Let us take some realistic value. Let us take 4 gigahertz, 4G phones. Probably I take 3 gigahertz frequency operating signal. Maybe it is operating on, for example, some modulation scheme. Okay. Okay. So 1 second. God. So just think, realize about it. I'll just 2 minutes. I'll come back again. Analyzing it. I'll just we can take this small break you to analyze that what is happening, what is happening to the wavelength and physical length. Okay, there's a two quantity, the wavelength and physical length. Okay, you keep thinking about it. I'll just come within 2 minutes. Yeah. Yeah. So here I've taken a realistic value, 3 gigahertz. So here, what is the wavelength for 3 gigahertz? Let us take 3G or 4G telephone operating, the signal, where the modulation scheme can be anything. Probably we can take OFDM modulations, any scheme. But when it comes to the antennas, it is only the frequency. One single frequency will be there, and typically it's not single frequency, band of frequency. If you say that Airtel 4G or Reliance 4G, they'll have a licensed spectrum which is given by government of India. So they have a spectrum. So that spectrum they have to operate basically. Any mobile phones or from the base stations or from the mobile towers. So you'll have a band of frequency. I'm taking a 3 gigahertz. So if you take the frequency is 3 gigahertz, and what is the wavelength? Wavelength is equal to C by F, and 3 into 10 to the power of, I'm going to write in terms of centimeters, and this is 3 gigahertz, 3 into 10 to the power of 9. So it's close to 30 by 3, that is 10 centimeter. Okay. So this is the wavelength basically. If you take on scale, probably this is my 10 centimeter. So this is my wavelength of the signal of frequency 3 gigahertz. So when I want to design any inductors or any if you want to have a small conductors interconnects, I'm not talking about conductor in the sense the coaxial cable or fibers or waveguides. I'm talking about in terms of the device, microwave devices or interconnects. When you have it in the RF circuits, you have to have many interconnects. One transistor connected to many cascaded amplifiers or different. You need interconnects basically. I'm talking about that connectors. So when you want to design this device and connectors, what I will do, I'll try to choose my the physical length of the device, let us take physical length is L, should be at least in a practical. What they will do, they will take the physical length of the conductor is very small, probably lambda by 10 minimum. Okay, they will take less than or equal to lambda by 10, because that they will choose that the wavelength is not going to affect the device. So they will choose that the physical dimension. I'm talking about the dimension of layout. Okay, whenever whatever is schematic you do it in the Virtuosa, finally it has to go to the layout. The layout is very important for high frequency circuits, because sometimes the crosstalks or parasitic, so we have to optimize that, the layout part. So basically when they choose that this layout, the physical dimension, they typically they'll choose that it's very small compared to the operating wavelength. So in this case 10 centimeter by 10. So they'll choose 1 centimeter, less than that, not more than that. Okay, even though it is lambda by 5 also they can choose, but thumb of rule, they will choose that very small. They will take lambda by 10 or less than that. So the physical dimension of the device supposed to be very small. In this case, for 3 gigahertz, it is 1 centimeter. So the whatever they are designing inductors or probably the interconnects, they'll make sure that they are maximum is 1 centimeter. It's not going to be extended further. Okay, this is very one of the crucial factor to design the layout stage of the higher frequency. Okay, so the other part is similar, fall into the similar line of explanation what I tried to tell you. The physical dimension, if it is greater than what happens, okay, if the length is greater than operating wavelength, so transit time effects, what happens, you can see the sinusoidal signal. If the wavelength is very small and physical length becomes higher, and it's case of coaxial cable, so what happens when it reaches in the receiver port, actually I'm transferring here, when I'm observing here already it is some delay, transit time delay it's happened. So whatever I receive, there will be some phase delay will be there. Okay, I think I got some questions. I don't get any questions. Okay, so is this clear? So basically when the operating wavelength is comparable to the physical length, or physical length is comparable to the operating wavelength, or sometimes it is more than the operating wavelength, so the transit time effect is visible during the transmission. So it becomes hindrance for a signal processing and receiving and doing it, further analyzing it. So this is called distributed elements. Okay, so here you can see that there is a phase difference already, it is noticed. So here this is called a distributed elements basically. So the impedance will vary throughout the transmission lines is what we have to understand here. So the voltage, what happens when the physical length is comparable to the operating wavelength or more than that, sometimes definitely it will be more than, correct? So when you see that coaxial cable or fiber, it is running from one city to another city, it is definitely, it's going to be the operating wavelength, the physical length definitely is going to be higher, correct? So when you have a DTH cable from DTH antenna to the setup box, definitely it is the wavelength is small or comparable to the physical length, because I cannot restrict. If I want to lay the cable from RV College to Mysore, the distance is 150 kilometers. Okay, close to that, or 200 kilometers. Let us take 200 kilometers. So if I lay a cable from here to there, definitely in my wavelength, if I choose 1 gigahertz itself, or if you choose a 3 gigahertz, know that only 10 centimeter is my wavelength. If it is 3 gigahertz, typically sometimes I'll use higher frequency. 1 gigahertz typically coming in 1 meter range. But what happens to these kilometers, 200 kilometers? Definitely, what happens? The physical length from RV to Mysore, typically it is 200 kilometers. Okay, definitely my length, physical length of the cable definitely is going to be higher than the operating wavelength. I know there are transit time effect will be going to happen. I cannot actually avoid it. Okay, so can I avoid it? Yeah, I just want communication from Bangalore to Mysore or RV to Mysore. I need to do communications. That I cannot avoid it. No, this transit time effect will happen. So I don't use that longer cable, I use the shorter cable. No, we cannot do it because that is a requirement. So we have to live with that transit time effect in the transmission line, but that can be intelligently or effectively can be reduced for interconnects. For example, this transit time effects can be intelligently avoided by choosing the physical length is, I think I've written here, right? I can probably I've written here somewhere. By intelligently choosing that physical length is less than lambda by 10. Okay, that way I can use it for a devices, interconnects, but not for a exact transmission line. But we have to live with that with the transit time effect. So that is called normally is a distributed elements. Okay. So we so if there is a distributed elements, that going to be definitely the voltage and current is going to change throughout the line. For example, if you take this is my RV, this is our RV. Okay, this is my Mysore. Okay, so I lay the cable. Okay, probably 200 kilometers. I'm sending some. Let us take very smaller frequency, 500 or 300 megahertz. Let us take 300 megahertz. It's a normal frequency, not high frequency. If you convert into wavelength, what happens? Is Mysore. Okay, so what is the wavelength? C by F. So let us take 3 into 10 to the power of 8, and frequency is 300 10 to the power of 6. So when you solve this, what is the wavelength you will get? So 3 into 10 to the power of 8, and denominator 3 into 10 to the power of 8, you will get typically 1 meters. Lambda is 1 meter. So this is typically 150 200 kilometers. So I am laid on cable, coaxial cable, 200 kilometers. My operating wavelength, that is 1 meters. Probably I'll choose another color. Okay, this is the 300 megahertz signal. 1 meter, 1 meter. Even it's small, and just because of the scale, even it will be very small, right? So only this is my 300 megahertz signal. So you can realize that when it is propagating, because the wavelength is, what is the wavelength? This is one wavelength of the 300 megahertz. It is 1 meters. Okay, so there will be lot of changes going to happen. That's what is told here. When this 300 megahertz signal, if I'm sending as it is, without addressing this problem, if I send as it is, what happens? It's going to change. The many cycles will be there before reaching here. Okay, there are voltage and current is going to vary throughout the transmission line. So if voltage and current if vary throughout the transmission line, then effectively V by I, that is impedance, also effectively is going to vary. Okay, so if voltage and current is vary, how I can design any circuits, or how I can expect the signal here? If voltage and I is constant, only I can do any analysis, right? So if you take any circuits, if V is there, if for example you are connecting here to the output, so this is the current I. Okay, so you expect the same voltage and current here, because it's just simple wire. Probably there may be some small attenuation will be there, but this, when you send the sine wave, you expect the same sine wave here. Okay, there won't be any attenuations basically, and even the phase change also, it is very unnoticeable, as we see earlier. Transit time effect should be very small, unnoticeable. Even if you think about it, when you're connecting function generator to CRO, smaller cable or little higher cable, if you connect it, it doesn't make immediately. If you switch it on, immediately you'll get a sine wave. The phase delay is unnoticeable basically, because the frequency is very small. Okay, but what happens if the frequency is getting higher and higher? Voltage and current is going to vary before reaching here. Okay, so before reaching here, the output, my voltage and current will vary here itself. Lot of variations. I cannot exactly predict where my phase exactly will match. So this is actually has to be tackled properly, so that I can effectively transmit and receive the signal. Okay, so this is basically, if this scenario we call as a distributed elements. So what we start with the transmission line, we will take two wires. and we will write voltage and current, input and output. I will assume that as like a real time, this is a distributed elements, and from the distributed element, I try to write the equivalent lumped model of for distributed elements, because it's something like a small signal analysis. Once I write as a small signal linear analysis, this lumped element also linear, right? Because V and I is constant. So by writing these distributed elements to the lumped, I'll start my analysis of the circuit. Okay, so this is what exactly we are going to do in the transmission. So this is called distributed elements. I think I erased everything. So this phenomenon called distributed elements. It is not desirable, as I mentioned earlier. It's not desirable. So this is what exactly looks at transmission lines. So simple two-wire line in a higher frequency, it will be like more complicated like this. You have RL components, you have a GC components. So that is going to add in every section of the transmission line. Okay, so as I told earlier, it's from RV to Mysore. So when you have a bigger section of the transmission line, you have a many RLGCs in between. So that is going to contribute the voltage current variations. That is the reasons we will getting a different impedance throughout the sections. So when you get a different impedance throughout the section, is called distributed elements. When you take a particular section out of it, and if you are able to model, that is called lumped sections. The lumped sections, the voltage and current, typically I can exactly know what going to happen. Okay, so these analogy you take it. For example, you have seen the metro stations, right? So this is one example given by one of the professor, basically for how to, what is the equivalent, what is a small signal, or what is the equivalent circuits. When we write some circuits, maybe amplifier or some circuits, we'll write the equivalent model. So what is that equivalent model? So if you take a metro station, no, the metro, the bridge, whatever they have from RV also is going to complete. I think when you come to college, most of the work will be get over. I think. So when you see that the metro, what you say that track, okay. So did you observe that it is not a straight line? Basically, there is a lot of curves based on the feasibility, based on the no, geography, locations. They will have different turns. So can I actually effectively model this? I can model this if I break that bridge, not physically breaking, break that imaginarily with the smaller sections. Just take from RV to let us take main gate to one more gate, or even less than that. We break whole bridges into, for example, let us take even off meters. Okay, off meter is relative higher. Let us take um, 50 centimeters. Okay, 100 centimeter is we can say that 1 meter. So if you take a 50 centimeters, you break all the bridges 50 centimeter. When you look only 50 centimeters, it looks straight. Correct, but there will be small deviation will be there, but it's unnoticeable. Is it making sense? You have the bridge is not actually the straight. It is not a linear. All the practical things, no, it is non-linear. So to analyze the thing, we'll try to break that non-linear into linear models. Okay, where that we can do some no, useful prediction. So if you assume even DSP when you will do take the signal as LTE system, right? Linear time invariant signal. Okay, it is linearly signal once added, it is easier to do estimations. If it is non-linear, it is very highly mathematically challenging. Basically, very simple example: if amplifier is a linear, if you give a sine wave, you'll get a sine wave, that you are 100% sure. If the amplifier is going to saturation or non-linear range, what happens? We give a sine wave, you get some other waves. It can be a triangular, or it be third harmonics components. You may get a lot of distortion in the signal if it is non-linear. So we always try to analyze the first step. We try to analyze always in the linear models, right? So that is exactly we'll do it here. We'll try to break the transmission line, even though it is impedance is varying. We'll take finer portion of the transmission line, where that finer portion we assume that that is a linear, by making the primary constant of the line RLGC as some value, assume some value. By estimating this value, I can see that the input current I of Z equals to contribution of this RLGC affecting my output current I of Z plus del Z and contributing effectively my voltage to V of Z plus del Z. Okay. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to break this total transmission lines into very smaller, exact small portion. What is the portion? What is the length of the portions? It should be as like in the bridge I told 50 centimeter, or it could be less than that. What should be the ideal value? Or 10 centimeters, 1 centimeters? What is the ideal value? It is based on purely one of the parameter is operating frequency, because the wavelength contributes the problem. Because if wavelength, if I take the section, in that section, if for example, I'm breaking one section. In this section, if the physical length is comparable to the wavelength or physical length is greater than wavelength, then again I get a problem. It become a distributed elements. So I'll break this section such a way that my physical length, this section, not physical length of whole, in this section, that is del Z, right? Z and Z plus del Z, the difference. So the difference of this section will be very comparably very small compared to the operating wavelength. So this is one of the key things to solve the transmission line problem.